Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 302 of Screw the Commute podcast. We're here with Barbara Glanz, and she's a member of the prestigious Speaker Hall of Fame, and she's a CSP and CPAE. That means big shot in the speaker world. And she's the first speaker on record to have spoken on all 7 continents and in all 50 states. And check this out. David Hasselhoff of Baywatch fame owes his entire career to her. So she'll tell you about that later. So hope you didn't miss episode 301. It's one of my Monday training sessions on self-reliance. Now, this is me railing against the concept of delegation and how this concept, if misused, can kill your business right from the start. So check that out when you can if you missed it. Now, how would you like to hear your own voice here on Screw the Commute? Well, if the show's helped you out in your business in any way, or you got ideas to help you start a business, we want to hear about it. So go to screwthecommute.com and look for a little blue sidebar that says send voicemail. You can click on it, talk right into your phone or computer, and tell me how the show has helped you out. Make sure you put your website in there, and you'll get a big shout out in front of thousands of people on a future episode of Screw the Commute in your own voice. So check that out. Also, make sure you grab a copy of our automation ebook. This ebook, we figured it out about 2 years ago, that just one of the tips in this ebook has saved me 7.5 million keystrokes. And this is not exaggeration. And the whole book has saved me all kinds of stuff. It allowed me to handle 150,000 subscribers and 40,000 customers without pulling my hair out. Allows me to steal business from other people who are too darn slow to get back to you. So check that out at screwthecommute.com/automate free. Screwthecommute.com/automate free. We charge $27 for this book, but it's yours free for listening to the show. And also pick up a copy of our podcast app while you're at it. It's screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. And we've got instructions and video and screen captures on how to use all the fancy features so you can take us with you on the road. Now, we're kind of in this pandemic, and everybody is working from home nowadays. And people that knew me 20 years ago are calling me up and saying, boy, I wish I'd have listened to you about 20 years ago. I said, yeah, I'll bet you do. And I formalized my training in this lifestyle business that I have been living for 26 years since the commercial internet started into the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school in the country. It's imtcva.org. Of course, all the stuff we have and Barbara's stuff will also be in the show notes for this episode. And you can learn the nuts and bolts skills it takes to really have an in-demand career. I mean, I'm really upset with the traditional colleges and universities that are just raising the fees, teaching you how to protest, and you got all this debt and you're competing for jobs at Starbucks. Well, I don't roll that way. We have students in a couple months making more money than they ever made in their life before they even graduated. So check it out at imtcva.org. It's a great legacy gift for your children, your grandchildren, your nephews and nieces to give them a solid career that's in high demand. All right, let's get to the main event. Barbara Glanz is here, and she works with organizations to improve morale, retention, and service. And she's known for her inspiring presentations on employee engagement, customer service, appreciation and recognition, and, boy, we need a lot of this lately, kindness. She's the author of 13 books, including The Simple Truths of Service. Now, this is she has a whole series on care packages for the workplace. And I did a care speakers tour one time. It was the worst thing I ever did in my life. I should have read her book first before I did it. And 180 Ways to Spread Contagious Enthusiasm. And she was voted the best keynote presenter you have ever heard by Meetings and Conventions magazine. Boy, she lives and breathes her personal motto, spreading contagious enthusiasm. Barbara, are you ready to screw the commute?
Oh my gosh, Tom, you're amazing. Amazing.
Oh boy,
So
it's been a long time since we caught up with each other, huh?
it has been, and it's such a joy. I'm so excited to be a part of your whole series.
So tell everybody what you're doing now, Barbara, and then we'll take you back. Now, you have to promise not to force me to take piano lessons for 4 or 5 years. I know you've what a slave driver. Well, my parents made me take violin lessons. That's
Oh,
even so. I took violin, but tell us what you're doing now. And I understand you moved to Florida now, and then we'll take you back to see how you came up through the ranks. I know you got a lot of tips for success.
all right. Well, yes, I moved from the Chicago area to Sarasota, Florida. This was after my husband died, so I kind of needed a new beginning.
No,
Uh,
you needed somebody you needed a place where there's no snow to shovel.
You know what? During this pandemic, I say every day, thank you, God. I live on the beach. I can walk 5 miles on the beach or swim a mile in our pool. And I am grateful every day. That's what's kept me sane.
There you
So
go.
you asked what I'm doing. I attempted my first virtual keynote last week. It went well, but I missed all the energy. So
Right.
I am basically a keynote speaker, although my master's degree is in adult learning. So I come from a very strong training background. I was manager of training and director of quality and training for a Times Mirror company from 1988 to 1995. And then in 95, started my own company. I realized I could impact so many more people. And by the way, I have a great story for young people because I was a high school and college English teacher. And actually, that's where David Hasselhoff comes in. I was a drama teacher as well. I directed him in his first high school
Oh,
play.
I told you. See, you started his
Now,
career.
don't give me credit for his career because he was a terrible actor then, and he still is. But he's cute and a really nice guy. So that was a wonderful part of my background. But then I chose to stay home when I had children. So I stayed home for almost 19 years.
Wow.
And I did a lot of part time things. I finished my master's, as I said, in adult learning. I did a lot of teaching of English as a second language for the government and just kind of kept my finger in. And then I went back as a person. Speaker for the grammar group in Chicago. And that was fun because that brought in all my English background. But then when I was asked to be manager of training, and at the time, the company was they specialized in customer service and all aspects of that. So I grew their training staff from 11 to 60. I helped write a number of their programs. I trained master trainers, and I love that. However, as I said, I was working with smaller groups of people. And as I started speaking at their conferences, and then clients had me speak at their conferences, I realized I could do so much more. And at that point, everybody in that company was concentrating on the external customer. And my belief became that until we really focus as well on the internal customer, we're not going to have a culture that really serves others. So I started speaking on employee engagement, regenerating spirit in the workplace. And I have to tell you a fun story about that. I was very new. Uh, Nobody was talking about like spirit in the workplace, not religious spirit, but just very engaged employees and spirit of caring and creativity and fun and ultimately productivity. So I had been speaking at an ASTD, American Society for Training and Development conference. And I was in the ladies' room, and I don't know about in the guys' room, but in the ladies' people do a lot of talking. And so as I was putting on makeup, one of the people next to me said, "What do you speak about?" And I said, "Regenerating spirit in the workplace." And she said, "Well, my boss would love to talk to you about that. I'm going to try to set up a lunch. What's your room number?" And I told her, and just kind of thinking, probably nothing would come of it. But I got home that night late to the hotel room, and there was a message from this woman saying, "Can you meet us for lunch at such and such a restaurant at 11:30?" Now, she didn't tell me who her boss was, but I figured anybody that was interested in my passion, I wanted to meet. So I walked in, and her boss was Ken Blanchard.
Oh,
And
wow.
of course, his book, The 1 Minute Manager, is the best-selling
Mhm.
business book of all time. So I was a bit overwhelmed, but we talked and talked and talked. And in that conversation, I told him the story of Johnny the Bagger. And that story has been one of the most amazing things to happen in my career. But anyway, he had tears rolling down from the story. And it's about how one person that heard me speak turned a whole organization upside down. And they've made 2 movies of it, and 5 million people have watched one of them on YouTube.
Wow.
And then as a result, Ken and I did a book together that sold about 750 copies. Anyway, to make a long story short, he said, "I'm closing the conference of 15,000 people
Wait,
tomorrow."
750 copies or 750,000?
1,000.
Oh, yeah, you said 750. I'm thinking,
And
what?
I meant 1,000. Yes. Uh, It hasn't made me a lot of money because we don't get a very big
Yeah,
royalty.
right.
That's okay. I'm here to serve, and that was the most important thing. But anyway, we did. He closed this conference, and he said, "Could I share this story if I credit you?" And of course, he did, and everybody in the audience was touched, and that's become a beautiful friendship. And many things. One of the things that I would say to everybody is how important networking is, and how important it is to connect with other people who have the same passion that you do. And even when I wrote my very first book, I decided that I would handwrite all of my heroes. And I was nobody, of course, and ask them if they would be willing to look at my book. And one of my friends, and I wrote to Og Mandino and
Mhm.
Tom Peters and Ken, of course, a number of people. And one of my friends said, "How can you have the nerve to do that?" And I said, "Well, they're just people, and all they have to do is say yes or no." And I got a fax that day from Og Mandino saying, "This is the best book on communication I've ever read." And I just
Oh,
cried.
great.
Here's
Yeah.
this wonderful hero. Anyway, I'm getting off
Well,
track.
no, but that's a good point for everybody here is don't be afraid to contact people. And
Exactly.
you did it in handwriting too. They never see that anymore.
That's right. That's right. And if and I sent them a little something, of course, afterwards. But I've always believed if you aim for the top, you never know. All they can do is say no, and you go a little lower. But again, if you believe in what you're saying and what you're doing, and that's so evident with you, Tom. Oh my God,
Well, I've
you are
been doing it for a little while, but there's two things I picked up so far besides the shoot for the high end. Is you said you taught English as a second language, right?
yes, yes.
So I think you should teach government as a second language because you said you did it for the government, but I sit here all day with the TV on, like, what are you folks doing in there
I
in
know.
Washington D.C.? And then
I
the other tip is you said about you're kind of kibitzing with somebody in the ladies' bathroom. That doesn't really work in the men's bathroom so much. We never say, "Oh, what a nice hairdo you have."
Oh
so
my.
so we might have to switch to go into the ladies' bathroom to use that tip, but we didn't get thrown out. So take us back. Do you remember when you actually started a business, your first business?
Yes. Oh, yes, I did. I do. It was in 1995. And the interesting thing was that I had spoken for ASTD. I mentioned that to you. And I had never even done a proposal before. But I had gone several times, and I thought, I can do better than most of these people. And so I found out later it's kind of unheard of to get accepted the first time. But I was the last speaker on the last day of a 5-day conference.
Wow.
And I thought, nobody is going to come. Well, I had standing room only. And out of that session, I got a call from a gentleman who is personnel director in the state of Michigan. And he said, I want to have you come and train people in the state of Michigan in customer service. And that ended up the first month of my business to be a 5-year, $250,000 contract.
Oh, that happens to everybody like that, right?
Yeah, right, right. But that is my second tip is check out all the conferences and associations. If you are a speaker or trainer, check those out. And again, that's a networking opportunity, and apply to speak. And even in your industry, if you're a leader in your industry, apply to speak, because it's wonderful networking, and you never know what will come from that. So that was one of the first things that was just the affirmation that I'd done the right thing, because it was scary. My husband was older; he was getting ready to retire, and we had 2 girls in college. So my paycheck was important to
Yeah.
the family. So it was a big risk.
Now, did you operate as a sole proprietor
I
or
did.
corporation? So at the beginning, it was a sole proprietor.
Yeah, but my other tip is to get your family involved, because that gives you that support system. So when you have to work later, you have to travel, or all those things, if your family's involved, they're much more appreciative, and have a lot more patience with you. So my daughter kept the books. One of my daughters, another daughter, did all my PowerPoint. Um, my husband did some marketing for me, and he also traveled with me. And he would get up in the morning and check all the equipment and put
Wow.
everything up around the room, and then bring me breakfast. So all I had to do was look good. But it was a wonderful blessing to have them. And the other thing is, I think for me, the main reason that I've been so successful, Tom, is I've come from a foundation of faith and service. And when I started my company, I just said, God, you gave me this gift. So this is your company, and you put me where you want me to be. And I really have done almost no marketing. It's been all
Hmm.
word of mouth and referral. And I think because, I grew up in a town of 4,500 in Iowa. So never, even in my wildest dreams, did I dream I could speak on every continent. I just spoke in my 100th country.
Wow.
I am so grateful every day. But there's a wonderful quote from Albert Schweitzer that says, one thing that we will know, one thing, let me read it to you exactly. One thing I know, the only ones among you who will be truly happy are those who have sought and found how to serve.
Hmm.
And so if I think when you come from a foundation of service, not in it for yourself, Ken Blanchard's definition of ego is edging God out. And I love that,
Yeah.
because when you're not coming from a place of self, you're coming from a place of wanting to help people, using the gifts that you've been given, the passion that I think is deep within us, then it's not a job. When I speak to an organization, I ask people, what is your work? And they always tell me a job title or job description. And I say to all of them, you know what? We are all so much more than a job title or a job description. So when I ask, what is your work? What I want to know is this: how is what you do every day making somebody's life better?
Hmm.
That's your work. And that's way different from a job. And so I don't care if you empty bedpans or you take out the garbage or you run a whole company. Think about, how is what you do making somebody's life better? And that, if you focus on that as your purpose, and again, people I think today are desperate to have a purpose, especially when you're at home, with your kids around, or your dog, or, all the stuff that you see that needs to be done around you, and you're trying hard to work in front of your computer. Having that sense of purpose or mission, that you are doing something to make a difference, I think is just critically important.
Yeah, and people, I'm kind of that way with from a different angle on it. People ask me all the time, well, faith are you? What religion are you? And you know, I'm always going to give them a goofball answer. So I say I'm Poseidon, and they're like, "What?" I said Poseidon. Do you remember, Barbara, the movie The Poseidon Adventure?
Of course, of course.
Okay, the original one was with Shelley Winters and Gene Hackman,
Yes.
and Gene, and I was much younger at the time when that came out, and Gene Hackman was a preacher, and he was doing a sermon on deck, and he said, "You know what? You take what you got and use it to do good for people."
Yes.
And I'm thinking, man, you can't go too far wrong with that idea. And that's the kind of what I've just lived the whole time. So I'm Poseidon, if anybody asks.
That's great. I love that. And you know, and it's a gift. You know, we work hard, but we are gifted.
We work 60 hours a week to get out of work and 40 for somebody else, or 80
That's
hours.
Yep, that is right.
All right.
That
So
is
you got some other tips, right?
I do. Well, I joined NSA, so
National Speakers Association, folks. That's
early
not
on.
National Security Agency.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, early on in my career. So I would say to people, find the organization or one or two that are where your industry leaders go, and join and become active in those groups. Writing books, you know, that's probably my best marketing tool. And I have a proclivity, or I truly like to publish, if I can, with a mainstream publisher. And I know I'm different from a lot of people on that. But at least early on in my career, there was a lot more credibility with a mainstream.
Right.
And you get paid instead of you paying them when you self-publish. But of course, you make a lot more money with a self-published book. So, you know, it's a conundrum, but I am grateful that I've had all my books. I've worked with 5 different publishers. And to get your books out there is one of the ways that you touch people that you don't have even any idea about. My idea, time of heaven, is that we'll see all the people we've touched that we know nothing about.
There you go. Now, a lot of people are sitting out there saying, well, yeah, you were an English teacher and all this stuff. But I know people that are semi-literate that have written 14 bestsellers.
Absolutely.
So there's no time. Like, I mean, if you have an idea, good ideas that help people, there's people that will get it down and get it into a book form for you. And
there are lots of ways. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know that the written word lasts. I mean, that's when I did my first book. One of my friends called and said, "Now you're immortal. You're in the Library of Congress."
yeah,
That's
that's right.
Pretty cool to think about. So a legacy on that.
Now, we were talking about monuments. I think they're going to build a monument to you pretty soon. So, because how many people have spoken in all the continents and all the states and everything? So that deserves a monument, I think.
Well, it's not about me, Tom. It is not.
But we're going to make it extra tall so they can't pull it down if they don't like you for something.
Well, and another thing I would suggest to people is collecting. You know, whatever your passion is, start collecting. When I write a book, I get a milk crate and I paste the working title on the milk crate. And then sometimes for 2 years, I just put things in, write notes on napkins, tear articles out at the doctor's office, you know, and just keep collecting for that book. And when I actually start writing, I think our subconscious mind, once we make that commitment to the subject and the title, I think our subconscious mind just works on that book the whole time.
Absolutely. Barbara, I'm listening to this. I'm saying that's the same thing. I was getting accused of being a hoarder, and I was collecting magazines and newspapers and everything, and it turned out into my Wake 'em Up Business Presentations book that's been selling since the early 90s.
Fabulous.
And also the part about taking time to write the book. Now, I have written a book in 4 hours that's made $3.6 million. So I'm okay for that too. All right. But the thing is it's hard for you to sit down and just think of everything you know about a subject and just sit down and write it down. So nowadays I use my phone, but I mean, in the old days I used a mini cassette recorder and I would just carry it around with me. And as soon as I would think of something that should be in the book, I would, just make a little mental note of it in my recorder, and then I'd transcribe it, because things will trigger your mind about stories and things that you forgot about years ago. And so so I do both methods. I collect stuff, and then I just brew on it and make little mini recordings.
That's a great idea. I'm much more of a visual person, so I really need to do it in writing or and see things. But you've always been. I mean, you were the first internet guru. In fact, that's always how I've thought about you, Tom. The first internet guru in NSA and that I've known. And so you've used the technology in ways most of us have not.
Well, the reason I like it is because, I mean, if you're driving, you can't stop and write something
Sure,
down, but you can just pick your recorder up, hit the button,
sure.
and it reminds you of it. But so go ahead with some more tips. We're loving this.
Well, and the nice thing about when you do that collecting, and again, I think our subconscious mind just works. I spread it out all over my living room floor, and it's amazing. It just falls into chapters, And again, I think that's what's been going on in my head. So I write a book pretty quickly.
You must
Uh,
not have a dog.
no, I don't have a dog.
I was going to
I
say
don't have a dog. That's true. That's true.
that.
But I also think that, and I have to be very focused. I mean, when I write a book, I probably spend 2 or 3 weeks not getting dressed. I'll get to the computer in my nightgown in the morning, and at night I take a shower and change my nightgown back to, because I'm very focused when I do that. But everybody has different styles. So I would just say to you, pick a topic of something that you are passionate about, because if you don't really care about it, that's not going to come through. It's not going to help a lot of people. And so and don't think that it can be anything. It can be any one of my books is called What Can I Do? Ideas to help people who've experienced a loss. It wasn't my topic area, but we had a child who died, and my husband died at a young age of cancer. And so many people said to me, what can I do? And I either didn't know or I didn't have the courage to ask. So for 4 years after all of that, I asked people all over the world, when you've had a loss, it could be divorce or loss of a job, loss of health. Usually it was death. But what did someone do that meant a lot to you? And then what do you wish someone had done?
Hmm.
And so the whole book is a compilation of ideas so that people can pick it up and look through and find something that is comfortable for them to help somebody else.
Yeah, and that's a great way to write a book. You compile a bunch of stuff
Yeah,
at one place. You're
yeah,
basically the publisher and writer. Um,
exactly.
hey, you know who's had the biggest influence on me, on all my products that I have?
Who's that?
The late Dan Pointer.
Oh, yes.
The
Yes.
self-publishing manual,
Yep.
folks, is like 92 versions of it. He wrote one, I think, every year. And yeah, I had his first version, and I started, I don't know, 25, 26 years ago, starting writing. And I've only had one major publisher book that I'm totally opposite of you, and it was the worst experience of my
Oh,
life.
no.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I hated it. I mean, think about this. I mean, with your books are more evergreen. Like
yeah.
by the time I turned in the manuscript on
It was
a
probably outdated, right?
internet book, it was 18 months before it hit the
Yeah.
shelves. And
Yeah.
of course I had written it for 6, 7 months before that. So it was 2 years old, an internet book. And then they nickeled and dimed me to death on indexing the book. And I had to pay for the graphics. And now it's even worse. A lot of times they make you guarantee so many sales. And so I'm happy to self-publish now.
Absolutely. And your topic, lends itself.
Yeah, it's got to be fast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now there's not that stigma of self-publishing. I mean,
right,
years ago there was, because anybody could publish anything, and a lot of it was really bad.
right.
Now there's not
Now
that.
there's still a lot of it really bad, but
Well,
the stigma went away.
there's a lot of published stuff that's really bad as
Yeah.
well. So, yeah. Okay. So another tip for you, for everybody, is to be creative, get out of the box, and you're the perfect example of that. They've heard that, I'm sure, from you for a long time. But from the time I was really young, I never did anything the way everybody else did it.
Perfect.
And when I had a book report at school, I didn't just do a book report. I would make a food that went with that report and pass it out, or I would make a model, or I dress in a costume, and always from that day on, I've tried to do something different. And so when I talk about spreading creative enthusiasm, and by the way, one of the things I love with my personal motto is that the root word of enthusiasm, the root words are entheos, over from God. So any enthusiasm comes from something bigger than any of us. And so getting creative about that. And a lot of my books are creative ideas of things that people have done, organizations have done to create a positive environment, to appreciate people. And I'm also very focused on very simple, practical ideas and models, because I think everybody today is overwhelmed with communication, overwhelmed with the news, overwhelmed with all the resources available to them. And so, our brains are kind of fried.
Yeah.
So, in my work, I use some very simple models, and I would encourage people to begin to think like that with whatever their passion may be. So, when I talk about appreciation and customer service and employee engagement, I use a very simple model with 3 columns. There's a minus column, a 0 column, and a plus column. And down below, it says your choice in every interaction. So every interaction you have, you can discount that other person, make them feel less important than you or your organization. That's a minus. If you just do the business at hand, it's really a 0. And I call these people slot fillers. They come in, they do just enough to get by, the clock strikes, they're out the door. But every time you make a human level connection and you say to that person, I see you. You are of value. You are important. You make a difference. And I have some wonderful little stories about that, it just, everybody gets it. Okay, so I went into the washroom at O'Hare Airport, real cold, snowy February morning. And there was a woman there who was cleaning, and she was just all hunched over and just kind of going through the motions. So I walked up and I touched her on the arm. I looked her right in the eyes. I said, thank you so much for keeping this restroom clean. You're really making a difference for all of us who travel. She just perked up. She started cleaning with a passion. By the time I got ready to go, she was handing towels out to all the women who were washing their hands.
Man.
And I left with tears in my eyes
Yeah.
because it cost me nothing.
Right.
But I don't think anybody hears that, Tom, and they don't get it, that they have a choice. And it's little things. It's not big things.
It's a beautiful model. Yeah. Minus, 0, or a plus. You stay in the plus side, your life is going to be better, and so is everybody else's. For sure.
Absolutely. And I just tell them, I want you to leave with that tattooed in your brain.
All right, we got to take a brief sponsor break. When we come back, we'll ask Barbara what a typical day looks like for her, hear about where we can find her books, and then all that stuff. So folks, about 20 years ago, I kind of turned the internet marketing guru world on its head. Guys at my level were charging 50 or 100 grand up front to help you and teach you this stuff. And I know a lot of these guys, you give them 50 grand, you'll be chasing them around Mexico trying to find them. So,
Yeah.
So I said, that's too much risk for a small business and it's not fair. And so I charged about a 10% of that as an entry fee. And then I tied myself to their success. So for me to get my big money, they had to make big money. And people seemed to like that idea because they knew I wouldn't disappear on them. So 20 years later and 1,700 students, it's been going strong still. So So we have a one-on-one program. It's a very unique. It's the longest running, most successful ever internet marketing mentor program in that I don't believe in group training for this kind of stuff. We tried it once and it was a disaster because the people that were beginners were lost when I was talking to the advanced people, and the advanced people were bored to death when I was talking to the beginners. So I said, this is not right. Nobody's getting what they need. So my whole organization through this mentor program is available one-on-one on an unlimited basis to tutor you to make these things happen, to get you this kind of lifestyle business I've been enjoying for 26 years since the commercial internet started. So you can check out the details at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. And it also includes a scholarship to my school, which you can use yourself or gift to somebody. So one guy gifted it to his daughter, who he had spent $80,000 on her education, and she's working some crap job. Within 1 month, she was making $1,100 on the side. 2 months later, $3,000. 4 months later, 4 months total since the start of the school, she was making $6,000 a month as a side hustle, quit her other job. She still hasn't graduated yet. So that's the kind of power, because every business on earth needs this skill, but they're all clueless. So they were happy to throw money at her to take over their social media and run their shopping carts and do that stuff for them. So it's a very in-demand skill, and you won't be in debt the rest of your life. So check it out through my mentor program at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. Okay, we're back with the fantastic Barbara Glanz. What a dynamo of a woman. When you see her website and go to her extended bio, the things she's done, I mean, I kind of relate, because when you screw the commute, you can live 2 or 3 lives. I think she's lived about 8 of them in all the things she's done. So what's a typical day look like for you, Barbara?
What time I think I need to sign up for your program?
Well,
I have my typical day now is not at all like my typical day was about 8 or 9 weeks ago. So I'm kind of enjoying the same lifestyle that you are.
mhm.
It's really nice. I've gotten so many projects done, probably throughout 20 crates of paper, the things I had saved over the years, and gave a lot of my business books to the speakers chapter. And so that's been a wonderful use of the time at home. But I'm getting ready to, after traveling all the time, I'm really missing the travel. So
Oh,
uh,
you are? I haven't been on a plane in 2.5 years, and I'm thrilled
I
to
know,
death about
I don't know how you do that. I love the people and the experiences and the cultures and the food. And for me, it's just a very growing, wonderful experience.
I
But
make them come to me, Barbara. See, so we have the retreat center here where people actually live in the house for an immersion weekend. Uh, yeah,
whoa,
so it's pretty cool. And then I have my kind of infamous butt camp where it's the longest running internet marketing seminar, because I came from a comic background and everybody wanted me to do a boot camp. And I said, I can't do boot camp. I'm sitting here on my rear end making all this money. I'll call it butt camp. So I've
that
done,
is great. I remember
yeah.
that. I remember that. I'm
Fripp was
sure.
there like the world record like 8 times, because you come once, you come forever for free. And
Wow.
so she'd always bring a young person with her to implement the stuff, but she was smart enough to know that she needed, as the principal, to know the big picture and then implement it with young people to make it happen. Now, the only thing different, you're a world traveler, they made me call it bum camp in England.
That's funny. I love it. Yeah. So anyway, I've done a lot of stuff on Zoom, of course, and
All right, but
have,
let's start. No, let's start the day out. You say you swim a mile or you walk the beach, and
I
you were
do,
a
but
swimming instructor for a long time?
I was, and that is I don't like to sweat, so that's my exercise of choice.
Okay.
It's 102 lengths in my pool, and it's a pool with the association.
Hmm.
But it was wonderful this winter because there was nobody here,
Right.
So I love that. But yeah, I do at least 30 minutes to an hour of some exercise every day. That's really important to me. I do a very healthy smoothie every morning, and I love uh, to write notes. So I write every day. I write 2 or 3 notes to somebody that needs some encouragement. And I do have 3 books in process, though, Tom. So
Hmm.
I have some things, seriously going. And then I'm just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with this whole pandemic and with the actual live
I
presentations. Because
think they're coming back because there's no substitute for them, no matter how good you get on Zoom, unless they start making holograms out of you. There's no substitute for it. Now, you ought to just invite people over to sit in your living room while you're doing your Zoom call.
Good. Well, and I do have one neat project coming up with virtual reality, and
Oh,
that I'm excited about. There's a very large nonprofit who has hired a company here in Sarasota that is known worldwide for their skill in virtual reality. And they want to train all of their employees in customer service. And the folks at the virtual reality company called and said, "We have the technology, but you have the knowledge. Will you be our subject matter expert on this project?" So I'm excited about that because I think that's going to be really fun to learn about.
that's cool. Yeah, I was going to start a virtual reality bank and have you give me all your money and put it in it.
Only you, Tom. Only you. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So anyway, I am loving this, time to regroup and reconnect. I've been reconnecting with a lot of people that I haven't seen for
Like
years.
me.
And yes, exactly like you. I was so delighted to get your email invitation. So this has been delightful.
All right, so tell them about your books. Where can they find your stuff? And if they need the best keynote speaker ever on earth, uh, tell them how to find
Oh,
it.
one of the things, I'm very authentic. I am the same person on the platform as I am with you today.
Yep.
So everything is from the inside out. And I have um, just, again, a real passion for helping people. And so my website, Barbara Glanz, GLANZ.com. Not glands like adrenaline and thyroid. GLANZ.com. And my books are all available there. My videos are there, way more than you would ever want. And then my email is bglanz@barbaraglanz.com, or my phone number, 941-312-9169. And I give my home phone number to every audience in the world, Tom, and I've had
I do too.
wonderful
Yep.
action. Yeah, I mean, people are so afraid of giving out their number, and I think, that's sad, because we need to come from a place of trust,
All right.
not
So if they want to get a date with that Hasselhoff guy, they go through you or what?
stupid. This is interesting. I was speaking in Las Vegas. This was about 4 years ago, and I got off the plane, and there were the big billboards that said David Hasselhoff starring in the producers. So when I got to the hotel, I called the concierge and I said, "Could you get me a ticket for Tuesday night? And could you get a message to David that his old drama teacher is going to be in the
Oh
audience?"
man.
And she said, "I don't know, but I'll try." And the next day, his assistant called and said, "David's dying to see you. He'll send you a backstage pass." And we talked for about an hour. I knew his parents and his sister, and
Oh, that's wonderful.
it was fun. But I don't know about a date, Tom.
Oh, I got to tell you a quick story about one of my students was a concierge in Las Vegas at the Paris Hotel, and and she wrote a book called "You Want What?"
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
that's great.
it is hysterical. She had this one guy came up and said he wanted a virgin chicken. And and so she's calling the chefs. All right, do you know what a virgin chicken is? No, we don't. She's calling all over all the hotels. Virgin, this guy wants a virgin chicken. And she finally, and it's kind of embarrassing for them not to be
Yes.
able to come through, right? She finally admits to the guy that she just cannot find a virgin chicken in Las Vegas. And he was a Scottish guy, and he wanted the Virgin Airlines check-in.
Oh,
She's all over looking for virgin chicken.
oh my gosh.
And then this other time, these guys were having a bachelor party, and so they gave this blow up doll they were supposed to put in the guy's room, and so they give it to the manager, and he said, "I'm not blowing this up." So he blows it up with helium and puts it under the covers in the room, and then he gets called to the manager's office, and the ambulance shows up. One of the maids went in and went to pull the covers back, and his body floated up out of the thing.
Oh my gosh.
So, the whole book is hysterical with stories like that. So.
But that's a great example for your audience.
Exactly.
And one other quick story that I just love about the importance of our books and how we leave that kind of a legacy. This was several years ago. I'd been out on the road 3 weeks, almost totally. And I'd come home about 1 a.m. I was absolutely exhausted. And I come home to a dark, empty condo. And I'd missed one. I'd forgotten to call my daughter on her birthday. I'd missed something else that was important. And I was just in tears. I thought, oh, Lord, what am I doing with my life? And I was so hepped up at that point, I couldn't sleep. So I had a great big stack of mail, and I decided I'll just go through my mail. And in this stack, there was a padded envelope with a book. And I opened it and I looked at this book and the author. I thought, why am I getting this book? I don't even know who this person is. And I opened the book. It was dedicated to me.
Wow.
And there was a note saying, I heard you speak 10 years ago, and you were the encourager that allowed me to finish this book.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Then I really bawled.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
What about a fast answer from above?
Well, so good catching up with you, Barbara. So I know everybody's going to want to check out your books, and hopefully if somebody's in some companies out there, they know who to call when they want the top of the line on a keynote speaker. So thanks so much for coming on.
You're welcome, and God bless all of you in the audience. I send you peace and love and safety.
Perfect. All right, we'll catch everybody on the next episode, and you need that safety if you hang around me. All right, catch you later.
That's right. Bye, Tom.